Despite being nocturnal creatures, vampires seem to get a lot of time in the light. They always get a lot of love and attention in media. Some recent popular series being Castlevania, What We Do in the Shadows, and Call of the Night. But I think it's time to resurrect an ancient old feud. Werewolves are rarely the main focus, often relegated to side elements in vampire stories. It's time to make werewolves the star of the show. Move over, Edward, cause Team Jacob is back. Do kids know about this? Is this too old of a reference? Probably, given that all kids do these days are talking about ticks. But finally, we have a new Shonen Jump series about our ferocious furry friends called the Hunters Guild, Red Hood. For the West, Viz released Volume 1 back in December of 22, and knowing nothing about it, I decided to pick it up. Now earlier I called them our furry friends, but unfortunately these are not good boys, deserving of some belly rubs. These are actual human devouring werewolves. If you haven't guessed by now, this is based on fairy tales. Not this one thankfully, but the classic fairy tales. Compared to Twilight, classic fairy tales are a really ancient reference for all you 200-year-old vampires, but most people I assume are familiar with some version of these fables, like Cinderella and hopefully Little Red Riding Hood. Of course, one of the changes as we mentioned is that this manga has werewolves, not the regular big bad wolves like the original. Werewolves can transform and shapeshift, all the better to trick people, rather than the silly granny cosplay we see in cartoons. The thing I love about media based on fairy tales is that you already have a foundation. Here is where the author can show how creative they can make this cake. It's always interesting to see their approach in making something stale that people have already seen become fresh and exciting again. Now while the Disney versions are fun, I've always been more of a fan of the Brother Grimm stories, which are a lot darker. Luckily for me, it seems that the story pays homage to the Grimm version, given that one of the main characters is named Grimm. She's on the cover, and I'm not gonna lie, if you're like me, this character design will sell the series to you instantly. I mean, big, strong, and cool looking lady with guns, I'm sold. In this fable, she is the hunter, but the red cherry on this cake is that she is also our Little Red Riding Hood. Being cursed by a witch, she is only able to maintain her regular fighting adult form for a set amount of time, before turning into a much weaker little girl. But at the very least, she gets bonus points for also being adorable. But because she can't fight 24/7, it makes room for our true protagonist, a young boy named Velo. As you would expect from an action manga, he lost his parents to the big bad wolves and wants to get revenge. Naturally, he will experience a lot of character growth and make a bunch of friends along the way. Now be warned, little boys and girls, for us to talk about some of the more interesting aspects of this story, we have to get into the nitty-gritty details, which means some spoilers for Volume 1. But as usual, I'll try not to give too much away. The story starts with a small village with a big werewolf problem. The jolly old mayor has done his best to protect the village. In fact, he's the one who avenged Velo's parents, so Velo really looks up to him, figuratively and literally. But even he can't handle the werewolves much longer. In order to hire a hunter, the mayor sells most of his belongings. What a great guy, nothing bad could happen to him, right? Grimm arrives, and with Velo's help, they track down the werewolf to sweet old Granny's house, finding a pile of bones. Oh dearie, things are looking pretty grim. Just kidding, cause Granny was hiding in the closet, but she reveals that the mayor was the werewolf all along. Things are back to looking pretty grim, but upon further inspection, with this whimsical gun that can sniff and talk, the bones are of a 70-year-old man, which means the werewolf is actually old Granny. Oh dearie. So a nice little twist on the classic, the werewolf was Granny all along, and much better at disguising herself given the werewolf shape-shifting nature. And oh my, does she really use her shape-shifting to the fullest, because werewolves can turn into some nightmarish forms, straight out of Resident Evil or Eldritch Horror. And for an old lady, she moves fast. Because she's old, she has no teeth and swallows her whole. I guess this poor Hamlet couldn't afford to get Granny some dentures. Velo, despite being terrified, takes the mayor's axe and slices open the werewolf's stomach. When Velo pulls out Grim, he finds out this was all part of the plan, as Grim wanted to place a freaking bomb inside Granny's stomach. Oh boy, did that wolf blow this house down. And all this happens in the first chapter. The rest of the volume has another hunt against a young pair of werewolves, a showdown with the colossal titan werewolf, Cinderella's a witch, and Velo sets out to joining the Hunters Guild. And if that wasn't interesting enough, the last page shows us a less friendly old face. Overall, I found this to be a pretty good start to an entertaining story. I still want to see a new series where a werewolf as the protagonist, but regardless, werewolves are getting some more attention. With the mayor's axe in hand, Velo embarks on a grand journey to put an end to the werewolves. Just kidding, cause Shonen Jump axed and put an end to the series by cancelling it, which is really disappointing cause I think this had so much potential. It would have been really neat to see this be made into an anime, getting to watch the fights against the creepy but also silly shape-shifting werewolves, especially how they transform and morph. In my curiosity, I did decide to read all of it online, and the ending does do some interesting fourth wall and meta commentary. Definitely not ideal, but the ending does do its best at suddenly wrapping everything up, while also throwing some jabs for being cancelled. I'd love to talk more about the ending, but I think I'll save it for after Volume 3, the final one, releases, so anyone who wants to check it out has some time to do so. But hey, that was a quick look at the Hunters Guild Red Hood. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. You can support me on Ko-fi, or if you want to yell at me, feel free to join my Discord. As always, thanks for watching, subscribing would be awesome, and I hope to see you on the next video. Bye bye.